Welcome back to another episode of the Briefcase in the Barn with Gary and I. Lockbox is not the sponsor, but we're going to do the lockbox for the length of this episode.
Are you putting yours in too?
No, just yours.
Just me. You don't have a problem with your phone.
I don't have a problem with this.
You don't have a problem with your phone.
Half hour.
Okay.
Guys, get one of these lockboxes.
And actually use it. My wife won't allow it to be on the counter, so mine doesn't get used as much as I should. It's still my fault. Not throwing my wife under the bus, but
kind of are. Okay, locked up. Anyways, today's sponsor is Beekman Auctions. Gary.
Beekman Auctions. We're having a fall auction coming up in about 60 days, and probably not the real target on this podcast, but if you are somebody, we take pretty much anything. Commissions are pretty horrible on the small stuff, so try bring something of value. You really get punished if you bring small stuff in, but still, it's a great way to get rid of stuff. A lot of people are going to bring it to scrap or bring it to the dump. They bring it to us. We charge a lot fee, so a lot fee keeps, does that make sense to you? Yeah. Anyways, but no, Beekman Auctions, great way to sell stuff. A lot of fun. We'll have a big, we always have a big dinner, free dinner for the whole community. The auction's on October 17, and the dinner will be on the Wednesday night at Heritage Park in Chilliwack. Bring your family, friends, free food, bouncy castles for the kids. What's that?
8 weeks away.
Yeah, roughly. Time, it goes quick though in this season. Now we come into fall, and
we'll talk about it again though as it comes closer.
Yeah, we'll talk about it again. But anyways, we're taking consignments now. You can go to beekmanauctions.com and there you go. Sign up.
Sweet. How was your week?
It's been good. We're recording this on a different day than we normally do, but I import cows out of the U.S., and I've been waiting for paperwork. There's the bird flu right now, and it's in cows.
Oh.
I forget the correct term for it, but anyways, we're testing. We have to test the milk, and it's a real pain to bring animals across. It's always a pain. Now it's really a pain, and so the timing is very tight, and it's quite stressful. As you can imagine, you're dealing with 3 different government agencies, one here, a couple in the U.S., and sounds like the cows are good to go across, so be doing that this afternoon.
Busy week? We haven't talked all week. I was gone, so I did some real estate. Did you sell some houses?
Yeah, sold some houses. Got another listing going live today on Stevenson, or yesterday, sorry. So nice place too. Big lot, under $900,000 in Sardis. So I think it's priced pretty well. How was Barnabas?
Talk about that, because there are people listening to all over the States as well. On describe the property, the size of the property, size of the house, and
the price point. It's a quarter acre. It's not a lot of square footage, but it is 4 bedrooms. 1,750 square foot home. Nice, decent layout.
1,750?
Yeah, just relatively small for Chilliwack. I would say that detached homes tend to be larger than that. Obviously, it really varies, but in your standard home, and a lot in town would be bigger than that as a general rule. But it's a good use of space, and a 10,000 square foot lot is a huge lot. That's quarter acre. It's on a corner, which is part of the reason that is a big lot. And the real estate market is such that there's not a lot of movement right now. There's not a lot of sales, but if it's priced right, it sells right away. And so if you're listening to this and you have a place listed and it's not selling, it's either not showing well or it's not priced right, I would say, because there's still lots of people that want to buy. And
so that's selling for how much? 900?
900.
Goodness, it's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And I've always been a bit bearish since we've gone to these stupid valuations. If you look at the course of time, the last 30 years, let's say, housing is always kind of 3 to 5 times average income in a country, and Canada's, I think it's almost double that.
Especially in the populated areas. If you go to the rural areas.
GTA or Vancouver, or Chilliwack, kind of this area. Yeah. But even up country, we were just in Summerlin this past weekend, my wife and I, on a little holiday, went and looked at some homes and stuff, and just absurd to think that, a detached home is, near the water selling for $1.8 million or $2 million. Who's buying that, right?
Who is buying it?
Not very many people, because she said that in that price point, because we looked at a place on the water, because we used to own a place on the water, a condo, and we were looking for something bigger, but this is way more than is obviously affordable for us. But it was basically, she said there was 4 sales in that area in the last 2 years in that price point. So
okay,
it's tough sell. Tough sell. Yeah, who is buying that? Now, the interesting thing is, in hard times, the rich get richer, right? some rich people probably lose all their wealth, but there's a swath of people that have been prudent.
It's hyper frustrates me, like with the government spending the way they do and all the programs they have, that it kills, especially.
Feels like that was a Freudian slip when you say hyper frustrate, because it could lead to hyperinflation, which would be very problematic.
But like the single moms,
they get punished.
They
Old people, pensions,
their rent goes way up. Your groceries go way up. Mm-hmm. You don't have any equity that grows.
No.
And you just like grind. Like that's what I feel for the most. Like it's just terrible.
Yeah. And the irony is that the government's basically say, and we'll help you by printing more money and giving more money away to those people, not understanding that the reality is we just have to have some probably hard times, which are coming. I talked to business owners in the last week, furniture store, another agricultural business, tough slugging, unfortunately. So
cool. And you went golfing? Seen your on Instagram?
Yes, yesterday, Sacco Maniacs golf tournament.
What's that?
It's for autism, an autism fundraiser for an organization that's run by an agricultural family, and it's been going for 16 years. We have a son that's diagnosed with autism, and probably have a few more kids that may. So, it was fun. Took all the guys that work with me out there. They had a good day. Nice. And lots of good food and drinks on the course, and big dinner afterwards. So long day.
Golf tournaments can be rough sometimes. They take slog.
I was not allowed to mention it to my wife, which is totally fair. I was not allowed to whine about how long, but it was a 12-hour day. We left home at 8:30, and we got home at, it was after 9. It was dark when I got home.
Where was it?
In Coquitlam.
Okay.
Yeah. We started golfing at 11, and golf ended at 5. Or after 5. It was over 6 hours ago. No, 5:30, 6.5 hours of golf.
Sanctifying process.
Yeah, and we ran into some bears on the course with their cubs. And I was pretty scared. So the guys who were with me were really making fun of me. Well, they were like driving towards it. I'm like, it's a bear and her cubs. Like, it just doesn't feel wise. Like,
it doesn't feel wise. No, I mean, I can see myself doing that, and it still not being wise. So, okay. I had a good week. I went to Ruitenburg Landing. Came back yesterday. Yeah. My phone was locked up the whole time. That was interesting. But
how did that feel?
I was kind of out of my element, or what I mean by that is out of my like regular environment. So it's already different. So you don't have as many tendencies to like maybe grab it or go to it as you would as if you're like at home sitting on the couch at night, whatever. Like there's always things to do. So it wasn't too bad that way. But I could definitely it was my birthday too, our anniversary, and it was just like completely unplugged. And I think it was good. Okay. But it's not like it's fun. Not having your phone. It's like you want to grab it once in a while and check messages, check your email, whatever.
Felt pretty connected to your boys then, to your wife, or?
Oh, they Malachi, like super high energy. They have activities for the boys, for the kids in the morning and the evening, and there's tons of things to do. So I actually barely seen him this week. He was just tearing around the island.
Okay, just having a riot.
Yeah, and Peter a little bit more.
Stuck with you a bit. He's a bit scared, or just a little more.
And then a pastor and a couple came in. A pastor was from the UK. He grew up in the schemes, like kind of like housing projects. Mm-hmm. Really poor. Ran away from home when he was 14. Pretty badly abused. Had no Christian upbringing, nothing. But he became a Christian, and now he started a church plant in Liverpool. I'm actually going to go see if I can go see him next week and interview him in person. A wild story. But now he's part of the Church of England. But he's quite like I would say biblical or conservative. But he's still part of the Church of England, so he has that.
Is biblical synonymous with conservative?
No. Conservative, I would say, in the Christian circles. I know what you're trying to do.
I'm just
being a shithead.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, but yeah, it was interesting. I mean, it was different than last year because that last year was like the foot washing thing. Remember at Barnabas Landing? So that was.
Would you recommend foot washing? Christians should wash each other's feet.
No, it's gross. No, I'll just.
Don't you think it's pretty special?
Yeah, okay, I'll tell the story because. So back, I think this was in 2021 when Nicole and I separated the first time. I went and found places to look for to live, and I found a place on Promontory, just a basement suite. And the guy that had the place for sale was Dan Wolf, and just told him the situation I was in, whatever, and he didn't need any reference checks. He right away said that you can have a place, and him and his wife were just super good to me and understanding. And so I was there for a couple months, and then I moved back home. And so we had him over for dinner a couple months later, Nicole and I, and we're just blessed by them. But then he kind of really just started mentoring me. So I met with him once a week, and he really helped me with all the crap we were going through. It was like the addiction stuff, or just like being the husband I was supposed to be, being the dad I was supposed to be, being honest, just helping me get over my stuff. And it was kind of the first guy I ever really trusted, and just met with on a weekly basis. And he really pushed me. I'm a pretty hard-headed guy. And so he was like, he wasn't soft, and he just like really drove me. And so it made a huge impact on my life, and was super blessed by him. Nicole and I actually started like taking turns staying at their house over weekends just to have breaks as, you know, the stuff was going on, and we're just blessed by that. And so just awesome guy. But about a year in of doing that, the relationship abruptly broke off super hard. He I don't know exactly why, but
probably doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter. So it was completely cut off. But I was super hurt by it because it was the first guy I ever trusted, and I was just like just let down, taken aback. And so I tried to call him, get a hold of him many times, and just nothing, radio silence. And I did end up one time getting a hold of him, and he just, I think he had said something about me being manipulative or something along those lines, and I blew up at him, and then it was just done, whatever.
Okay.
But his family had been going to Barnabas Landing for a long time and really enjoyed it, and he told us about it one time. So
that's how you started going.
Yeah.
It's through them. Okay.
Through them. So he told me about it. So I just signed up last year to go, and I didn't really think about Dan anymore. And so it was 12 weeks, you know, like 12 different weeks people can go and stuff like that. So we go, went with our friends Jason and Amy Bremer from Alberta, and we get on the boat to go to Langdale, not Langford. I said Langford in the last couple podcasts. It's Langdale, and you go to Gibson's, and across from Gibson's is Keats Island. But
okay. So it's off the Sunshine Coast then, not off the island. Okay.
That's right, yeah. Anyway, we get on the ferry, and there's Dan and his family. And I'm like, oh no. I'm like, I still like do not like this guy at this time at all, and just very upset. And so I'm like, Nicole, we're going home. Like, I don't want to deal with this.
Can I interject the story for a second?
You can ask as much as you want.
Well, if you're listening and you have that when you see certain people, or you feel that way about certain people, that they give you that anxious pit in your stomach having to meet people, that would be an indicator that you would need to sign up for Freedom Session. Anyways, carry on with the story.
So anyway, so he's going to Barnabas Island that week as well. So like this whole trip all of a sudden for me is ruined because there's 100 people there, 75 people.
You're not going to avoid this guy.
No. And so anyway, first couple of days, I'm like really tense, you know, like Nicole's feel like I'm shut down emotionally. I'm just like, Nicole's not happy with me. And anyway, there's a pastor couple there last year as well. And I went for a hike the one day and kind of told them what was going on. And the theme that week was about forgiveness. And so anyway, so every morning the kids go and do their thing, and then the parents have this talk from this pastor. And on the Wednesday morning, so one of the last days, he wanted to symbolize forgiveness through foot washing. And so coming from the NRC and, you know, the background I have and stuff like that, I'm like, red flags, you know, weird, don't want any part of this. But he said, hey, if you're not comfortable with this, that's fine. So basically they had 3 chairs in front with a little bucket of water basically, and said, if you want, you can, you know, sit in the chair, and someone else can put your feet in the water, and you can dry them off, whatever. You don't actually have to wash them. And it just symbolizes humility, you know, like Jesus washed the disciples' feet. That usually would have been the serving girl that did that at that time, not even the disciples. And so like it just symbolizes humility, and if anybody wanted to do that. So I'm thinking to myself, like, oh no, like Dan better not get out there, because that probably means that like God wants me to do this. And I'm like, I'm like, yeah, not enjoying it. And anyway, so just a few people doing this, and I'm kind of decided in my head I'm not going to do it. And then I seen Dan walking up, and he went and grabbed the bucket of water, and then he came over to me where I was sitting in like the crowd, and he said, how can I wash your feet? And so that was, I broke down, he broke down, and he just, afterwards he said, I'm just so sorry for what I did, and would you please forgive me? And I said yes, and then I asked for forgiveness as well, just for the blowing up at him the one time, and just, I knew there was things
in any other way.
In the relationship I had done. And then the next day we talked about it through with the pastor as well, and just cleared the air. And And since then, we're not close like we were in the past, but I definitely
there's no wall there.
There's no wall there.
Talk to him. You could
talk to him like every 3 months. We grab a coffee or something, and so that relationship was healed through that. But that was just a wild experience. You can't write that up. So so to this week was definitely not as crazy as last year.
Didn't have any experiences like that.
No. But yeah, I respect him and try to also remember the good he did in my life. Like he was a real gift for a year there.
For a season, yeah. And some people are in life just for that, right? For a season, for a reason, whatever. Right. I think often people are like, oh, we're not close. It's a problem. No, like sometimes it's okay.
You can't be close with a lot of people.
You can't be close with a lot of people for a long time.
No.
I really struggle with that. Now, my wife is reading a book about ADHD right now and ADHD in marriages, and I will send it to you so you can read it. It will be very helpful for you.
Nicole has really bad ADHD.
Nicole does, so does Marie. Marie's got a lot of things, but not ADHD. No, I really have it badly, and it was fascinating. One of the chapters she made me listen to it the other night. Marie listens to the bulk of her books, doesn't read them, listens to them on Audible, and it was just talked about how like ADHD partner will like pursue their spouse and just, I mean, love bombing would be the derogatory term that people would use today for narcissistic people, and I'm sure I fall in that camp to some degree. But like it was totally over the top, right? Like it was over the top. Like Marie had a whole book. She probably burned them now, but she had a book of like letters that I wrote and poems, like poetry, lots of poetry. Right?
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And all kinds of stuff like that, and bringing exorbitant gifts all the time. And I'm sure my mother and father-in-law would attest to that. It was just ridiculous, right? And then, so we dated, like that was a year. And then we got engaged, and like it fell off a cliff. Like just
I thought it fell off after you got married.
No, way before.
Okay.
Like with me, it was like the minute it was like, okay, check that box.
Next.
Now hyper focused on the next thing, right? And okay, let's start farming. Let's build the hay business. And so Marie has really paid the price and had really been neglected emotionally over the years in our marriage. And so, yeah, I mean, we're working on that now, and we dialogue about it.
What does the chapter say? Or the piece?
I think it's written to people. I think it's probably written to both. It's written. I think a lot of people don't even realize they're like. I've realized I'm that way through Freedom Session and just having candid conversations with my wife. Her just saying like, hey, like you're literally neglecting me, right? Like it's been, and I don't like that because I'd like to pride myself in being a good husband and doing the right things, and so it hurts my feelings, and then I withdraw. And we get into this horrible cycle of not being connected. But now we have a marriage meeting every week, every single week. It's one of the things that Marie and I go to a marriage retreat conference every single year through Family Life in the fall. It's a fundraiser for Family Life Canada. And we learn that tool there. And I've shared it with a lot of other couples and people that are serious about most couples need to do a marriage meeting. Some don't. Like some couples are just really close and they dialogue a lot and are good friends.
Yeah, huge difference for me and Nicole. We start doing it. Yeah.
Okay, so you do. And like for us, like, we do it, and we just happen to do it on Sunday night. It's the beginning of the week. And
to be fair, I think we've missed a lot of Sundays as well. Okay. Like it's not like we're super consistent.
We don't do well if we miss it.
Okay.
It's definitely something that's built in, and basically.
So what do you do? Because this is what we do. I go through our whole calendar together.
Yeah.
We talk about the whole thing for the whole week. We talk about one thing we appreciate about each other that week, one thing we don't like about each other that week.
Yeah.
And we go through our finances.
Okay. Yeah. So that would be pretty typical. I mean, they have a pretty specific order outline where they would say you would start with the encouragement. And then if you read the book on it, because Marie's read the whole book on the marriage meeting, because there's a book on it, it was basically you would just take, you would ask the other person after you're done saying, hey, this is what I appreciate about you, or this is what's been great. This is what was great in our last week. You say, hey, did I miss anything? And then that's kind of humbling when like there's 4 things that they were really awesome and you missed, right? Marie,
what about and you told me, or I don't know if Maria told me, but giving criticism you don't enjoy doing, other things that you don't like.
Yeah, because I just would prefer to just have a mediocre relationship rather than have any conflict, right? And have very little, like just avoid conflict like the plague, right?
Yeah.
And people are surprised when I say that because people are like, oh, you're a big mouth or whatever. And I am a big mouth, but I'm a big mouth that avoids conflict. So it's a pretty dangerous combination.
I think I would fall.
Would you fall in that camp?
I think so. Yeah. Or traditionally, like historically, I would definitely hardcore people pleaser. Yeah. Okay. I mean, it really helps in sales and taught me a lot of sales skills. Like, but yeah, I mean, from very early on as a kid, that was like, what I wanted was acceptance, and it never came. And so that's, I think, what drives a lot of it as well.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I've said it before. I don't know if I've said it on here, but conflict is the pathway to intimacy, right? So obviously healthy conflict and gentle and kind and all the things that you can do well. And that's one thing that I was probably not taught when I was younger, right? I was never taught. It was never shown to me how modeled how to disagree and to be, to say anything negative while still being very encouraging while doing it. And some people have a gift of doing it, and I don't think I do, but I would love to learn how to be honest and truthful and
I think it also comes from a culture when you're in a community where for the most part everyone thinks the same. Then when someone has a different belief than you, it feels like an attack.
Well, also, so on that line, so I grew up believing that if something was different, it was wrong.
Yeah,
that's how it is ingrained. And actually, it's funny because I just talked to a guy this morning about it, and we were just talking about churches and kind of the way people view things and religion and faith, and it was just like, yeah. And some things are wrong. So, I mean, it's not as if it's different, it's not wrong. It's just you have to be able to sift through Scripture and decipher what truth is, right? And
don't assume that you were taught was necessarily right either.
So that would be another thing that I would struggle with, right? Just that air of superiority or even in my marriage where it's like, hey, if we don't have an agreement, I'm going to assume that I'm right and she's wrong. Well, that's a problem.
Yeah. It's interesting. Even just like this podcast and getting feedback on it and stuff like that. People have shared things they liked and didn't like, and I mean, my goal is just to be as real as possible. It's just, not.
Is that what people want?
I don't know if it's what people want. It's what I'm going to do.
Okay. Because you're not people pleasing.
Well, no, I think if I start doing that, then it's going to be the purpose for this show is to be, create something that I would want to listen to. Yeah. I really enjoy it, and to be real, no bullshit. Like if you meet me in private or you listen to me here, you're going to get the same, same version.
Okay.
What are you looking up?
Oh, the reading of today.
I got a proverb picked out.
I know you do, but this is Corinthians, man, and
you read it?
Oh, I read it this morning.
You got one of these? You're following the same plan?
Well, it's a different version. But yeah, same plan. Yeah, it was exactly right here. I even flipped back a few days.
But anyway, going while you look that up, there's going to be people that don't have the same beliefs as us. We don't necessarily have all the same beliefs either, you and I. I'm not sure. I can't think of anything right now, but I think that's okay. But I think you can have an open conversation about it, and that doesn't necessarily mean the other person's not a Christian or that, don't agree on everything, but just having that openness, that's how you learn, get better, consider other people's beliefs and learn about them. It's actually one of the, when I started this podcast, that was kind of my initial premise, and back in 2019 was to learn about other people's worldviews, beliefs, and how they got there. Because often someone has a different belief than you just judge the belief. But unless you take the time to figure out how they got to that belief and, understand how they got there, it's going to be really hard to engage. But I think first you need to seek to understand, why does that person have that belief? Yeah. How grow up that way, or why do they do the things they do? Very rarely is it, is it just pure, ignorance, or is it yeah.
Anyways, the verses that, and Paul's letters to the Corinthians here, 1 Corinthians 9, and it goes into 10 and 11. I started obviously on the date that we're on, and then I flipped back to August 15th, but it was just where he talks about, even though I'm a free man with no master, I become a slave to all people to bring many to Christ, right? And he talks at length about that, about how when he's with the Jews, he's like the Jews, etc., right? Which is where the saying, when in Rome.
Yeah, but I think, so it's interesting. My dad used to use this argument with me as well, to be like, there's a whole bunch of things he would say he would do, not because he believed they were wrong or right, but because just culturally acceptable. And so he would say, Timothy, Paul told Timothy to get circumcised, so the Jews didn't have an excuse not to listen to him. And just to do that. And I think that's why Hudson Taylor, I think, grew a big long ponytail when he went to China when he tried to reach the Chinese with the gospel, to try to fit in with that culture. I think we have to be wise. But also later on in the New Testament, the Jews in Jerusalem, who are a more established church, are told, "Hey, don't make this issue of circumcision a thing. Don't tell people to do it." So I think
he goes into the next chapter saying there's lots of freedom in what to eat, freedom, which is interesting because I hung out the other day. I was in Idaho on a hay buying trip a couple weeks ago, and I hung out with a guy that was a 7-day Adventist, and I didn't have the verse for him, which is unfortunate, but he just started talking about how, they don't eat pork and this and that. And I'm thinking like it's fine to not eat pork, I guess, but like to say that should be your stance, it just doesn't line up with how the teaching here. Right. And I mean, don't need to shoot him down because he's 7-day Adventist, but it was just interesting that he had he had cherry picked some of these things that were important. Right.
A culture's weird. Like I remember the word awesome, for example, like growing up, if I refer to God as awesome, that would be rude. It wouldn't be acceptable.
It wouldn't be respectful.
It wouldn't be respectful. And I know a guy in the UK that if you use the word awesome for anybody other than God, it's bad. Only God is awesome. Like full of awe, whatever.
Okay.
Awe for God. I'm just like, it's a word. Like it just like, how can you just pick one and say like, that's what it means and this is right. And if you're other than that, I think it's scary to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways. Fruit of the Spirit of the week is peace. I'll talk about peace. What does it mean? If God says to us, we should, as a Christian, be peaceful, what does that mean to you? You think what?
Well, I think personally, on a personal level, we should have peace
With ourselves?
Yeah. We should be
Be at peace.
At peace. Have faith. Faith would bring upon a peace upon us that passes all understanding, right?
Yeah.
Which is a foreign concept to me. If I had to describe myself in a sentence, it'd be that I'm perpetually discontent. So, I mean,
is that really true? I would say historically you've been way more discontent. If you know your story, your life story, like when you were in your 20s, I would say you're less discontent now. You're more peaceful than you ever have been in your walk with God. Like there has been growth, I'm assuming.
Yeah, there has. It's just I think of maybe. Probably don't look at it that objectively. I just feel like I guess I too often compare to, right? And people are just given certain personalities, and I just look at some guys and they're just, wow, they're content with what they have, content. I'm like, that feels more Christ-like than the idea of like always being driven.
Yeah, I mean, it's clear that you have a long ways to go, but
no. Peaceful with others is something that, like, we just live in a polarized society, and I just long for that. I just feel like that's why I joked with you about the conservative Christian thing, but I just think like it's, how do we dialogue? And there again, we can even really disagree with people, or we can think they're really wrong, but we should still be able to have a relationship with people that we really disagree with.
And love them, be loving, be kind,
and caring, man.
But also, like, I think this is really, really important. When I started going to Central Church, I still came, like, I remember the first night at a worship night. I think you know the story, but so it was like a sing along, whatever, and I thought I would go, and so I was, there's the band up front, and there's just louder music, not the organ anymore, and so naturally I'm still suspicious. Just how I grew up, you're just not used to it. It's just different. Mm-hmm. I tell people if you have soup after church on Sunday for 40 years, and then someone puts a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in front of you, you're going to think it's wrong. You don't have any biblical backup for it. It's just different. So you're not used to it. So you think it's wrong.
Yeah.
And so I think naturally that was part of it going into it. But they sang first 10 minutes about the sinfulness of man, and then I read a whole bunch of quotes, and then 10 minutes about the holiness of God, and a bunch of quotes, then 10 minutes about the redemption in Christ, and a bunch of quotes. And I was just like, I was kind of floored because it was just so clear. But they read Romans 3, which describes who we are when we don't believe in Jesus yet. And it says, your heart's like an open grave. And it's kind of like, and it says a whole bunch more pieces. I think it starts at like verse 12. I would encourage anybody to read it in that New Living Translation version, just because it's so blunt. But if you realize that, that we're dead in sins, that we're black, we need Jesus. We're not better than anybody. We're not worse than anybody. We're all equal.
Yeah, that's not how we grew up, though. We grew up sins were all tiered.
Exactly, but that's not how it is, though, right?
Some things weren't even sins that were sins, just because that's how they set the spectrum.
Yeah, but it's not. But I think when you believe it's equal, then you don't have this.
It definitely changes things.
Yeah, it changes everything.
Your perception on yourself and on others.
That's right.
Yeah, and it should bring more gratitude to us, right? Just how gracious God is for us,
and nothing to prove.
And nothing to prove.
Like I don't have anything to prove. Like I am who I am. Like if someone says like I can't believe he did that or this and that, I'm like, well, then you haven't read Romans 3, because you read Romans 3 pretty much makes sense that we're as bad as we are, and our hope is in Christ, and we shouldn't accept it then and just be like, oh, I'm going to keep on sinning because it doesn't matter. But it's not based on.
I guess versus the thing is with people like being humans, like versus like where sin abounds, grace does much more abound. We can't really even wrap our head around that, right? Because our grace does not keep abounding.
That's right.
Right. As human beings, like in a marriage or whatever, like all of a sudden, no, that was the straw. There's a reason that's the straw that broke the camel's back.
We have caps.
It's over. We have limits.
Yeah.
So to think that, and I think that's where we get into trouble, right? I mean, we start portraying our humanness on God and start. And then
but I think it's beautiful when you
trouble.
meet Christians that like have extremely high limits. Like we're supposed to reflect, as dads, God the Father, we're supposed to be an image of him, like reflect his character in our marriages, supposed to reflect Christ. Like the more it does, Christians should be.
That means take the crust every time.
We're just at a half hour already. Yeah. Goodness. Okay. I'm going to read the proverb and then we'll go into overtime. Proverb of the week. I picked this one because it seemed right up your alley. Proverbs 21:5-7. Good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty. Wealth created by a lying tongue is a vanishing mist and a deadly trap. The violence of the wicked sweeps them away because they refuse to do what is just. But good planning and hard work lead to prosperity, but hasty shortcuts lead to poverty.
Lots of things lead to poverty. Hasty shortcuts. Or as my mom used to say to me, those get-rich-quick schemes that you have, Gary.
For me, I think this reminds me of the compound effect. I don't know the book here. It's a great book. But like doing a small thing over a long period of time has huge impact. Just like you don't quickly try to be a good dad. You don't try to quickly run a good business. You don't try to quickly...
Good things take time.
Yeah, just like a small thing over a long period of time. I did the math this week. I was talking to my brother-in-law who came with us to Barnabas Landing. And an average person's screen time is 3 to 4 hours a day.
Okay.
You cut a half hour off of that. You take that half hour. You times that by a half hour every day for 20 years. It's roughly, I think, 3,000 hours. An average,
Which is a year and a half.
A year and a half.
Work time.
Yeah. A year and a half of work time. So you use that half hour to what? Like be a better dad, learn an instrument, like read a book, exercise, whatever it's that. Like over 20 years, that has a huge impact. But it's a small thing over a long period of time. You don't decide if you want to be a good dad, have a good relationship with your kids 20 years from now. Start just doing a really small thing today and a really small thing tomorrow and the next day. And just don't stop.
Yeah, another great book. Read both. He actually has 2 books out now. I think it's Morgan Housel or Hansel is his name. And the books are The Psychology of Money and The Same as Ever. And very much those similar concepts, but very interesting reads, lots of stories, great writer. And just about sticking with it, right? Yeah. Sticking with it.
And you see that in other ways. Like you see guys that like stick with their business for 20 years and like they ever give their life to their business. In 20 years, they have a really good business, like really successful, have a lot of money because that's where they put their time in. So it makes sense. That's what you get.
Yeah. Also, there is just a lot of that compounding effect is happening so slowly that you don't see it. And so for someone like me who's extremely impulsive and impatient, and I've done this, I think I've told you multiple times, sold things or just been too impatient and it's interesting how left a lot of money on the table just kind of being like, oh no, got to make a move, right? Rather than just being like, no, we'll just see this through and this is going to take time. And in some areas I have, so it's been good, but I do feel like...
Reminds me that dead people's portfolios do best in the stock market.
Yeah. So that would be one of the chapters of the book would be the dead investor or something like that, where he talks about those. If you can just leave it alone, put your money in, not look at it, the best portfolio would be one that's never looked at, right? So
awesome. Hey guys, thanks for listening. As always, really appreciate it if you like the podcast, hit the notification bell on your wherever you listen to it so it pops up when it gets published. If you have any questions or topics you think we should discuss, send them in. I'm going to add a form to my website, furiouslycurious.co, where you can send in a question, and you can do that anonymously if you want. So if you want us to talk about something that you're like, hey, I don't want people to know that, Gary and Kyle to know that this is who sent it in, whatever else like that. Maybe it's a scenario, maybe it's something going on in your business or something like that. We can just discuss it and talk about it. Otherwise, we'll see you guys next week, and we are going to go into overtime, which is us just talking a little more candidly. And you can watch that on patreon.com/furiouslycurious. It's $5.
Is there a link?
There there's going to be a link today.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'll start mentioning it on here, but I'll start putting together some of the stuff we've been talking about. We've been doing it for a few weeks now. So yeah. Anyways, cheers.